Bok Ning Bang, and I have been married for 5 years. He is the perfect husband in everyone's eyes, and was even called the #1 husband in love with his wife by a magazine. Everyone admires us, but no one knows what role I am really playing in this marriage. Over the past 5 years, she has always maintained a cold and indifferent look, and I have gradually lost my initial enthusiasm in pursuing her. I know that in her heart, I am still not that person, the person she can never forget. Therefore, I proposed a divorce and proactively left. But a week later, I saw her blocking me right in front of my new house, Phuong Vien. She looked at me, her eyes red, and said, "Why don't you need me anymore?" This afternoon, as soon as I got home, Secretary Trin texted me, "Sir, Mr. Bok, there is a party tonight, expected to be home at 10:30. I looked at the phone screen for a moment and then replied, "Okay, thank you." By that time, she must have finished eating, perhaps drinking some wine. I just need to prepare bath water in the tub, put clean clothes in the bathroom, and I'm done. Everything is ready. Exactly at 10:15, I thought for a bit, left the lamp in the living room and then went to sleep, drowsy in my sleep. I thought I heard the door opening and the sound of running water in the bathroom. When I was about to fall into a dream, a scent wafted nearby. Suddenly something warm pressed against my back. I dreamily turned my head, her kiss fell exactly on my lips. Probably a bit drunk. "Why do you sleep so early?" After saying that, she gently rubbed my ear. I looked a bit tired, but she still hugged me tightly and didn't let go. "So is it like that every time you get drunk?" Indulge her, she will keep whispering forever. Perhaps this is the only time she acts coy to me. Perhaps only in this moment do I feel like I am her husband. I cannot refuse. That's all she needs. It was the middle of the night, she fell asleep in my arms, but I couldn't sleep, so I got up, poured a glass of wine, and sat alone in the living room. I stared at the wedding photo hanging on the wall, wondering when was the right time to ask for a divorce. About me and Bok Ning Bang, we met since college. At that time, she was a shining goddess, with a good family, a beautiful car, and a perfect, flawless figure. I was attracted to her, it was natural. At that time, I also recklessly pursued her. Unfortunately, I pursued her for 2 semesters, doing many stupid things, but still could not move her. I remember it was a snowy day, making her favorite sweets myself, waiting in front of the girls' dormitory and receiving a cold sentence, "Phuong Vien, don't come looking for me anymore. I already have someone in my heart." I used to not accept losing, thinking it was just an excuse to refuse. Until by chance, I saw the person she loved, Lam Sin. Seeing her gently adjust his shirt and playfully stroke his hair, her eyes were full of love. Look at him smiling, and even tiptoe to gently give him a kiss. At that time, I knew that Bok Ning Bang also knew how to love someone like that. It's just that that person isn't me. After that, the story between her and Lam Sin quickly spread throughout the school. The love between the goddess and the poor boy caused Lam Sin to endure a lot of gossip. Everyone thought he just wanted to rely on Bok's family, a kind of male phoenix trying to climb high, but Bok Ning Bang always protected him. Even for Lam Sin, she used her family connections and banned the school's gossip forum. Unfortunately, such an intense love affair ultimately did not have a happy ending. She never told me the reason for the breakup between Bok Ning Bang and Lam Sin, but it was rumored that Bok Ning Bang wanted to marry Lam Sin after graduation so that Lam Sin could become the Bok family's son-in-law. But Lam Sin did not agree. He said he did not want to rely on women and wanted to create his own career. Many people have seen 2 people arguing in the schoolyard. Arguing, then making up, then arguing again. Finally, on the day Lam Sin decided to return to his hometown to work as a teacher in remote areas, they broke up. Half a year later, the Bach family and the Phuong family cooperated on the project. Bach Ning Bang and I had the opportunity to meet again. Because of the project, we gradually became familiar again. Thinking back now, maybe I was just an opportunist. I'm still like a few years ago, very nice to her, sharing with her the experiences I learned at Phuong's house, reminding her to drink less alcohol when going out socially. And after every party, I brought her home safely. One snowy night, after 3 months, she saw me freezing in front of the company, suddenly came over and asked, "Phuong Vien, do you like me that much?" I looked at her in shock and then nodded slightly. Yes, because I truly love her. Hearing the answer, she smiled. So do you want to marry me? When I first got married, I was also full of enthusiasm for this marriage. One could even say that most of the past 5 years of my marriage have been filled with passion because I love her. I also naively believed that the reason she actively talked about marriage was because she also loved me. So, even though she rarely responded to my messages, even though I had to go through the Bach family's secretary to know her schedule, even though other than the formal intimate times between us, there seemed to be nothing deeper, my love for her still did not fade. She is the only daughter, so she must take over the family estate. And my family has an older brother, so my life is easier. As for the strict old man of the Bach family, a member of the Bach family's council, he also made things difficult for her because of her young age. I know she is always under great pressure. So, after thinking carefully, I gave up my job at Phuong's family and joined the Bach family's company to help her manage the most confusing branch. I understand that she just wants to be stable at one company. Even though it wasn't easy, I still tried to keep her from worrying anymore. Even though I was tired and sick, I didn't tell her and went to the hospital myself. Until one day, I accidentally found a box inside. There is a file that shows that over the years, she has been quietly donating to a rural elementary school. The principal of that school, to thank the anonymous donor every year, after receiving the donation, writes a thank you letter and asks the relevant organization to forward it. Those letters were neatly folded and placed in boxes, without a single extra fold. The principal of that elementary school was Lam Sin. The next morning, when I woke up, I asked for help preparing breakfast in the kitchen. Bach Ning Bang suddenly came behind me and hugged me. I was startled and turned back to look at her. "Can I stay home for breakfast today?" She nodded. The maid looked at me with confused eyes. I was confused and looked at the ingredients in my hand to help me. Before, I always told her to prepare 2 portions of breakfast, whether she was at home to eat or not, because she always left the house earlier than me. I always cherish the moment I get to eat breakfast with her, but recently I no longer ask for 2 portions. It feels like a bit of a waste. "You eat this first." Finished speaking, I put the egg rolls I had cooked on a plate and gave it to her. She looked at the plate of food, slightly dumbfounded. "Eat it while it's hot," I added. "I won't go to the company but go straight to the supplier on the way. I'll just eat it." Having finished speaking, I put down the glass of milk and turned to leave. Phuong Vien suddenly held my hand and hesitated as if she wanted to say something. When I turned back to look at her with concern, she walked closer, hugged my waist, raised her head and said, "Hey, you seem unhappy. Is your work at the branch making you tired lately?" Hearing that, I immediately replied, "I'm really a bit tired these days. Actually, because I'm always thinking about divorce, I'm a little tired inside. I don't have anything to do this afternoon. Secretary Trin said there's a new restaurant near the company that opened. It's a Cantonese restaurant that you like. Do you want to go with me?" she suggested. I was stunned and then confirmed, "Are you really free tonight?" She nodded in response, "Yes, really." "Then I'll come to the company to pick you up tonight, After saying that, I hugged her, feeling completely relieved. She has time, which means tonight she can finally talk about divorce. That night, I still couldn't wait for Bok Ning Bang. She missed her appointment again. 5 p.m., just leaving the supplier's place, I received a text message from Secretary Trin. Bok Ning Bang had an emergency and couldn't go to dinner with me. Missed appointments like this have happened countless times in the past year. I soon got used to it. After changing clothes, I immediately prepared dinner for myself. After eating, I looked over some quarterly reports from the branch, then took out my phone and wanted to watch a few short videos to relax. Then in a local highlight video, I saw Bok Ning Bing. She didn't go alone, there was also Lam Sin. The two sat facing each other, behind was Bok's company's first-floor coffee shop. The person filming is probably an employee of the company. In the video, that person excitedly said, "Look, it's a benefit for our company's employees. When they go to work, they can meet the goddess and famous Teacher Lam, Principal Lam, and drink coffee together. Teacher Lam is much more handsome in real life than on TV. I want to come get an autograph." Video was posted 5 minutes ago. The comment section is full of praise for the goddess and the teacher, really handsome, a beautiful couple, jealous of the person who filmed this video. Is the company still recruiting? I want to be there too. I looked quietly for a while, then turned off the phone. It turned out that Bok Ning Bang broke the appointment because of Lam Sin. I don't know why, I'm clearly her husband, but I feel like it's obvious that she broke the date because of Lam Sin. No wonder, even after 5 years of marriage. In her heart, Lam Sin and I are probably completely incomparable. At 9:30 p.m., I finally waited for Bok Ning Bang to return. "What are you having for dinner tonight?" She walked over and sat down next to me. It's rare to see her interested in my dinner, but I didn't answer, just remained silent for a moment and then quietly asked, "Are you busy tonight because Lam Sin is here?" She froze, seemingly a little surprised and a little angry. "Who told you that?" I shook my head. "No one, just watch the video." After a while, she sighed softly, "Phuong Vien, I didn't tell you because I was afraid you would misunderstand. Don't worry, there is nothing between you and him. I once anonymously donated to his school, I don't know how it was exposed. He came to the TV station to thank him. Because of his busy schedule, I coordinated to participate in a few interviews." Having finished speaking, she sat down next to me. I met him at the coffee shop. The company had a lot of employees present. "Phuong Vien," she hugged my arm, "we've been married for 5 years, the trust between us is probably still there. Tomorrow I'll probably be free, let's go eat Cantonese food." "Bok Ning Bing," I suddenly interrupted her, "actually, I don't like Cantonese food, because you like it. I just said that so I can eat more with you." I said that. She was stunned. "We have been married for 5 years. Do you know what food I like to eat?" She didn't answer. Of course she didn't know, because she never wanted to know. The emotions I had been pent up for many hours were about to explode. I tried to restrain myself from shouting at her, but still asked that question bitterly. "So, you remember Lam Sin likes black coffee and likes to eat croissants, but you don't know what your husband likes to eat?" "Phuong Vien," she frowned, "if you have anything dissatisfied with me, we can talk, but don't drag Lam Sin into it." That's right, with just one sentence from me, she couldn't stand it. "I want to talk to you tonight." I took a deep breath, turning back to look at her. "Bok Ning Bing, let's divorce." The whole room seemed to fall silent for a minute. Phuong Vien and Bok Ning Bang, hearing that, opened their eyes wide. "Do you know what you were saying? You know that divorce is something that cannot be talked about casually, do you understand that?" The space was quiet again for a moment. After that, Bok Ning Bang suddenly stood up. Just now, maybe I said it a bit harshly, but just because of meeting Lamson once, do you want to divorce me? I was silent for a while, feeling like she had misunderstood the problem. If I really wanted to have an affair, I wouldn't do it this way. What kind of person are you? We've been married for 5 years, you understand? She continued, I really understand her. She is always resilient. If she wants to do something, she will definitely do it to the end. And what she wants to do will definitely be carefully calculated, ensuring success. But does she understand me? Did she ever love me? After seeing tonight's video, the old feeling of inferiority towards Lamson came back to me. The truth at hand, as long as I stand next to Lamson, Bok Ning Bang will never see me. But as an adult, if you still worry about loving or not loving now, it would be ridiculous. I just feel like after all these years of marriage, we're really not compatible. You can also make better choices. Where are we not compatible? She naturally reached out her hand. Phuong Vien, over the past 5 years, you've always done very well. But you don't want to continue anymore? I dodged her hand. Bok Ning Bang's hand stopped, floating in the air. I've already prepared the divorce agreement, I said. Phuong Vien, she suddenly interrupted me, looking dissatisfied. I've already explained about Lamson. I also promised to have nothing more with him. What else do you want? Speaking of this, her face turned black. If you keep insisting on this matter, it's really unreasonable. You are a man, why are you like a woman, always entangled? Not sad. The words I was about to say were stopped by her. Looks like we can't talk anymore tonight. Maybe she realized she spoke a bit harshly. After a while, she softened her voice. Hey, I'm really tired. Don't make things difficult for me anymore. Having said that, she stood up and went to the bathroom. Looking at her back, I softly said, Bang bang, tonight I will eat spicy duck blood. She came here, then stopped to remember something. Do you know, that's what I like. Most impossible, what did you just say, divorce? The next day, my brother, Phuong Hang, finished reading the divorce agreement. His eyes widened. Anyway, since Bok Ning Bang and I got married, the Bok and Phuong families have cooperated much more deeply. I thought for a moment, if I was planning on getting a divorce, I should inform my brother in advance. If you could return to help me at Phuong family, what would be better? But why do you want a divorce? Even though it was a bit forced for the two of you to get married at first, right? But I think the two of you live together quite harmoniously. He said, swinging the wooden stick. What did you say? What is forced? That's it, my brother rubbed his forehead, seemingly regretting his slip of the tongue 5 years ago. The Bok family needed a large sum of money. At that time, I saw that you really liked her, running to see her every day regardless of day or night. So, when Bok Ning Bing came to find me, I gave a little suggestion. I stared at my brother. What do you suggest? My brother was confused, avoiding my eyes. I told her that if the two families could become in-laws, I would definitely help financially. I stood there, in that moment, the blood in my body seemed to freeze. Little brother, my brother looked at me worriedly. Is there anything else? I squeezed my forehead. What else? Don't you know yet? My brother hesitated. I already want a divorce. Is there anything else I can't say? It's not a big deal, it's just that on your wedding day, Bok Ning Bing's ex-lover came. I stopped looking at him. He wants to meet Bok Ning Bang. But at that time, he was afraid that things would get complicated, so he told him that the two of them were very happy. Maybe Bok Ning Bang doesn't want to see him again, tell him to leave. He scratched his head, Because at that time there were also members of the Bach family there, so did Bach Ning Bang know about this? I don't know either. It turns out that's the case. I used to think that the reason she agreed to marry me was because she was moved by me, because she had some feelings for me. But it turns out that this marriage is only for the company, for Bach's family, for burden and patience. The words said 5 years ago on that snowy night turned out to have this meaning: Phuong Vien, do you really like me that much? I love you so much that I used this method to force her to marry me. So, she married me, but created a boundary between me and her. She never let me pass. When I first got married, I always liked to text her, wanted to take her out, wanted to share every bit of fun in life. But outside of work, she rarely responds. If anything happens, she just asks her secretary to contact me. Gradually, I spoke less and no longer actively bothered her. Even the main contacts became Secretary Trin. We still maintain married life. She also whispered in my ear, calling my name, Phuong Vien. I thought it was proof of our love. But when I mentioned having children, she always said she was busy and it wasn't the right time. Now that I think about it, maybe she never wanted to have children with me. After all, I'm just a husband, and that's it. Last night, she asked me, she pledged to no longer have anything to do with Lam Sin. What else do I want? That's right, they had a chance to start over. Because of me, they missed that opportunity. Even, perhaps forever. What more do I, a sinner, want? But once upon a time, when I loved her, I didn't expect this. When she was with Lam Sin, even though I was a little jealous of him, I never thought I would be the third person, let alone separate them. I love her, just want her to be happy. But she used this method to punish me, punishing me for 5 years. After that, I walked aimlessly on the street without realizing that I was standing in front of the Bach Company building. In the briefcase is a prepared divorce agreement. I thought for a moment and then texted Secretary Trin to inform him that I had come to the company to meet Bach Ning Bang. I want a divorce. I don't want it to take any longer. When I entered the first floor lobby, I met Lam Sin. He was smiling and talking to the receptionist. Hearing footsteps, he turned to look at me. He is thinner than in the video and darker than when he was a student. Even though he was only wearing a jacket and jeans, he still exuded confidence, maturity, and composure. Long time no see, he nodded slightly in greeting. After that, we went to the first floor cafe together. Unexpectedly, there are also creme cakes and black coffee here like when I was in school, so nostalgic. He smiled, his smile was still as bright as before, his student days were wonderful. He actively talked about his past years. He's really good. After returning to his hometown to work as a teacher, he helped many poor children there. Now, the school is back on track. He has become a celebrity and is truly remarkable. I sincerely commend it. Lam Sin smiled. People only see the bright side of things like that. In fact, there were times when I almost gave up. He raised his glass and took a sip of coffee. Actually, on the day you two got married, I met Bach Ning Bang. I was stunned and didn't say anything. At that time, because of my pride in having love, without any reservation, I arbitrarily made the decision to break up. That hurt her. But when I actually became a teacher, I realized how big the gap between ideals and reality is. Many things are more difficult than I thought. I almost gave up many times. When I was at my lowest, I thought I would give up everything to go back to find her. But then I heard that she was going to marry you. I interrupted him, stunned. I didn't know that he came that day. Hearing that, he bowed his head and said nothing. I continued, I'm about to divorce Bach Ning Bang. Lamson suddenly opened his eyes wide. "Don't be funny." He suddenly laughed. "Over the years, I've often seen you two in the press, people praising you two as the perfect couple." "Really? Can I ask a question?" After a long while, he spoke softly. "Why do you want a divorce?" I shook my head. "Why else?" "Because I'm tired. I also want someone I can freely rely on for once." At that moment, a familiar voice rang out from the cafe door. Phuong Vien, Lam Sin and I returned together as Bok Ning Beng. She walked quickly until she saw Lam Sin. She was slightly surprised and then frowned at me. "Why did you come here?" Looking at her expression, I suddenly understood. She probably thought I came here to make things difficult for Lam Sin. Bang bang, Lam Sin also stood up. "Sorry for bothering you. There are a few volunteer education projects that I mentioned to you last time. I have time today, so I want to talk to you a bit. I'll have the secretary bring you up." Having finished speaking, she called Secretary Trin at the door and took Lam Sin to the office. I thought she was going with me, but she still stood and looked at me. I'm a bit confused. Is she planning to blame me for Lam Sin's matter right here? After all, I am her husband. This bias is too obvious, too inappropriate in public. There was no other way. I could only squeeze my forehead and begin to explain. "Bok Ning Bing, it's not what you think. Phuong Vien, are you feeling unwell?" I was surprised. Before I could react, she walked over and grabbed my hand. "Why is your face like this and your hands are cold too?" There were a few employees around, looking in, and I heard them whispering. I suddenly realized what her strange behavior was because of. Bok Ning Bang and I rarely appear together in public. She was afraid that I would cause trouble with Lam Sin, so she let him go first, then pretended to be intimate with me in front of the staff to avoid raising bad rumors about Lam Sin. It doesn't matter to me. I'm about to get a divorce anyway. Helping her and Lam Sin put on a show wasn't a problem either. Moreover, I don't make things difficult for them, and divorce can also be negotiated more smoothly. Thinking so, I raised my head and smiled. "I'm okay. Teacher Lam and I still have things to discuss. I'll go first." Having said that, I pulled my hand out, grabbed my bag and prepared to leave, but she stopped me. "Where are you going?" I was just about to answer her when I suddenly put my hand on my forehead. "Phuong Vien, you have a fever, let me take you to the hospital." Bok Ning Bang didn't let me say more and pulled me into the car. "Actually, I feel a bit helpless. Let me drive for me. Every time I go with you, so you can have a little more time to rest, I will drive. I'm sick, let me drive." She spoke again firmly. At first, I thought she was just looking for an excuse to pull me out of the company, but unexpectedly she actually took me to the hospital. "It's nothing serious, the body temperature is normal, it's just that her husband has hypoglycemia." "How long has this been happening?" the doctor asked. Bok Ning Bing was stunned, unable to speak. "It's been a few years," I answered myself. "Family members need to pay more attention, always bring some sugar for him." The doctor wrote the medical record and spoke. "This can be mild, but it can also be dangerous. In addition to feeling tired, severe dizziness can lead to fainting." Bok Ning Bang nodded. "It's okay, doctor. Actually, I feel like I'm overdoing it a bit. I myself always carry sugar and cookies with me." After the examination, I planned to leave early, but Bok Ning Bang kept asking the doctor a series of things to keep in mind. It seemed like she suddenly became very concerned about hypoglycemia. Out of the hospital doors, on the way to the parking lot, she was still holding my arm tightly. After a round at the hospital, I actually felt a bit dizzy. Sitting in the car, I took out a sugar cube from my bag, peeled off the wrapper and put it in my mouth. The air in the car was heavy. I closed my eyes, not knowing how long it would take. Finally, the car stopped. "Here we are." I asked dreamily, "Where to?" The space was quiet for a moment, then she suddenly asked softly, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" I opened my eyes and looked at her, not understanding what she was asking. Feeling unwell? Maybe not. Only this time, she parked on the side of the road. "Why didn't you tell me before?" I did say that. Even though I'm talking, I'm still closing my eyes. She was slightly stunned. "When we first got married, one week you came home very late. Every day after that, I had low blood sugar. On the way home from the branch, I felt dizzy, so I stopped and texted to ask if you could bring some sugar. Speaking of this, I laugh. You didn't answer. Maybe you've forgotten now. Anyway, you texted me too much at that time, it's normal to forget. And there was one more time, you probably still remember, we both participated in an interview for a magazine. The reporter accidentally dropped my briefcase from the sofa, and the sugar cube in the briefcase fell out, making them suspect that we had a child but hadn't announced it yet. The interview that day was full of difficult questions, and I was very upset. After the interview, I told you to stop carrying so many useless things in your briefcase. Why don't you say it? Because you never gave me a chance. I'm afraid that this little thing will become a reason for you to hate me. You don't like sugar, so I just put it in a sealed pocket, not letting you see it. I wanted to become the head of the Bach family, and you did my best to help me achieve my wish. Phuong Vien. She suddenly grabbed my hand. Actually, I found a Sichuan restaurant. I plan to go with you tonight. Her hand shook slightly. But your health is not good, let's go eat something lighter, okay? I shook my head. I'll just go home and eat porridge. You don't need to come with me. Go back to the company. Phuong Vien, you have time tonight. She insisted. I gently reminded. But Lam Sin is still waiting for you at the company. Let the Deputy General handle that matter. I looked at her in surprise. So are you really free tonight? She nodded. Are you free? I thought for a moment, if you have time, let's go home. She nodded, her eyes flashing with joy. Let's go home. Hearing this sentence, my mood suddenly became happy. When we get home, we'll sit down and talk about divorce. For the rest of the way, Bok Ning Bang said nothing. She is inherently a very sensitive person. From last night until now, I think maybe she understood that the divorce I mentioned was serious. When I got home, I calmly took out the divorce agreement. I spent a month preparing, making sure to consider every point. Our divorce will not affect the Bok and Phuong families. I will leave the management position at the Bok branch. If you want to add something, you can add it. We can discuss. She stared at the divorce agreement, saying nothing. I sat across from her. I know you're busy, so I wanted to prepare carefully before telling you that. This way, we can resolve it quickly without wasting each other's time. I don't agree. She suddenly pushed the deal back to me and turned away. I was stunned. What terms do you not agree to? I opened the agreement and asked awkwardly. It's a stock clause. What? I've already given the maximum concession, can I reduce it further? I'm afraid my family will. She suddenly raised her hand to hold the agreement. Phuong Vien, I do not agree to divorce. She looked at me, saying every word clearly. Her eyes looked at each other, her expression seemed very serious. Why? After asking, I suddenly realized. Do you think that in the past 5 years I have managed the branch quite well, so you are worried that the successor will not do well and cause scandal? Actually, you don't need to worry. As long as they're dedicated, they'll do it. Thinking of that, I took out 5 notebooks from the cabinet. In these books are records of internal processes, notes when working with the media, as well as contact information of. You can rest assured about the supplier and personnel situation of the branch. I will hand over everything to the successor. If they need support in the future, they can still contact him. Phuong Vien, she suddenly raised her voice, her eyes were red. I looked at her questioningly. What do you consider our marriage to be, and what do I mean to you? Just a mission? I didn't answer, just turned to look out the window. How can it be just a job? It's because I value this marriage so much, to help her do everything, that I try my best for her. But what does it mean to say these things now? Phuong Vien, she grabbed my hand and put it on the table. You have to understand, we are not colleagues. We are husband and wife, sharing the same bed, but other than sharing the same bed, we are no different from strangers. She froze. The number of times we have dinner together each month can be counted on the fingers of one hand. The number of messages you send to me is even less than the number of messages sent to Secretary Trin. I don't know what other couples are like, but I know, I don't want a marriage like this anymore. Having finished speaking, I gently withdrew my hand. Bok Ning Bang, actually, I've been thinking a lot lately. In this marriage, you are not wrong. I am the one who pursues you and wants to marry you. In the past 5 years, I have never betrayed you. It was he who harbored unrealistic illusions about this marriage. Living like this is actually not bad, but I think life is short. We should still be with the person we like, and that person also likes us. Anyway, being with the person you love will make you happier. She looked at me stunned. The person I like, she asked blankly. Who do you think the person I like is? I shook my head. I don't know, but whoever it is, Lam Sin or anyone else, it won't be me. The next morning, I left the house and returned to the apartment I bought before getting married. The night before, we had been sitting across from each other in silence for a few minutes. Bok Ning Bang stood up, received a call and left the house all night, not coming back. The divorce agreement was also taken away by her. I think she probably agreed to a divorce. Either way, she hasn't lost anything. The wedding ring on my left hand is the only gift Bok Ning Bang gave me for 5 years. Before leaving, I took off the ring and placed it on the nightstand. Just as I finished making arrangements, I received a call from my brother. Isn't that right? Bok Ning Bing called me early in the morning to ask me what kind of candy you like. My brother's voice was full of helplessness. What's going on? Are you two playing family games? Are you planning on getting a divorce or not? I was dumbfounded. Brother, I thought for a moment, we have a small media company, right? It's not operating very well, my brother. It hasn't made a profit in an hour for several years. I'm planning to cut losses and stop operations. I held the phone, looking out at the deep blue sky from the 26th floor. Can you give it to me? In the evening, I suddenly received a text message from Bok Ning Bang. There's a party tonight, let's go together. Really? I looked at the phone screen, feeling a bit confused. This type of message has always been sent by Secretary Trin. Go ahead yourself. During the divorce proceedings, I wasn't at home. I moved out. After that there was no further response. Yes, that makes sense. But an hour later when I went downstairs and was about to drive, I saw Bok Ning Bing. I wonder how long she waited here. Looking at her, she was a bit tired and her eyes were still red. I have never seen her so emaciated. What's wrong with you? Her eyes flashed with hope. She quickly walked over and grabbed my hand, but then stopped. "Where's your ring? You took it off. Why don't you wear it again?" Her voice was a bit urgent. "We're going through divorce proceedings, so what's the point of wearing it anymore?" After Phuong Vien spoke, she raised her voice. "I have not agreed to a divorce." "I don't understand. You haven't agreed yet? Why didn't you say you didn't agree last night? You still took the agreement?" She looked at me for a long time, her eyes suddenly shining with tears, but she didn't say anything. "If you don't agree, does that mean you agree?" "Phuong Vien," she hugged me. Stiff voice, "I don't want a divorce," and then say I don't want a divorce. Again, before I had imagined how many obstacles were on the way to divorce, like my brother, like the handover of branch management, like the issue of property division. But I didn't expect to fail right from the first step. "She doesn't want to." I was almost seething. "Why don't you want to? Why don't you want to? Isn't this a good thing for both of us?" She was stunned, about to say something, but the sound of a car horn interrupted her. It turned out her car was blocking someone else's path. There was no other way, because we were urged. We had to get in the car together and go to the party. As soon as I sat in the driver's seat, I realized something was wrong. The back seat was originally clean, now the bags I bought for candy are gone. She whispered in the closet, "It's also available. In the future, if you feel unwell, don't hide it from me." Having finished speaking, she added, "I also have it all over the house. Bok Ning Bing, I also found 2 chefs who specialize in Sichuan and Hunan dishes. You can eat whatever you want, spicy or sweet. Sweet is also good. I will eat with you. I will also learn to cook. I will get off work earlier. We will have dinner together on weekends. We can go to the movies and to the park. If everything that bothers you is Lamson's matter, I can also explain. The company has been working for the past few years, performing volunteer education projects. Let me see." As for the grand cake and black coffee, talking about this, she seemed resentful. Current coffee shop employee at the company, previously worked at the school coffee shop. Then she lost her job. I brought her to work here. Lamson used to work part-time at that restaurant, so she still remembers his hobby. I may have misunderstood you that night. But to me, he is just a person from the past, unrelated to us, not even important. "Bok Ning Bing, Phuong Vien," she interrupted me, "can you hear me? Last night I thought all night long. In this marriage, I didn't do well, but I can change. As long as we correct our mistakes, we can still give each other a chance." When I arrived at the party venue, I still felt a bit confused. After greeting a few acquaintances, I wanted to go outside to breathe, so I went to the balcony. Unexpectedly, I met an old acquaintance, my childhood friend. I stepped forward. "Isn't this the perfect husband that everyone praises?" She saw me, smiled and raised her eyebrows. "Long time no see." This girl still maintains a way of speaking that makes others uncomfortable. "How are you doing?" I know she is the stepchild of the Tang family and her position in the family is not good. "It's okay." Hearing that, she took out a cigarette and gave it to me to smoke. "Are not?" I hesitated. "Forget it, if I get photographed it would be troublesome. After all, the newspaper says I don't smoke. It's boring." She pointed to the forest outside the balcony. "If anyone hides there to secretly take pictures, I will swallow this whole forest. Do you believe it?" I laughed. Actually inside I was a bit. "It's okay to be sad, just smoke a cigarette, that's it. Just now, looking at you like that, I thought you were depressed." Hearing that, I smiled faintly and replied to her, "Haven't you found a job yet?" She hummed indifferently. "Duong Tam, Do you want to consider working at my small company? I know, she's actually very talented in design. What's wrong? Aren't you working at Bach Tea? Don't want to be the man behind B owner Bach anymore? Saying that, she raised her eyebrows. I didn't want to argue with her, so I picked up the phone and sent her company information. The company is just starting over, the salary is not high, but I hope you will come. I know, she yawned, but her eyes suddenly passed me and then looked towards the door. I turned around and immediately saw Bok Ningbang. My first reaction was to immediately extinguish the cigarette because Bok Ningbang did not like the smell of cigarettes. She stepped closer, frowned at Duong Tam and then looked at me with high eyebrows. Why do you smoke? It's not good for your health. She said this very softly. Seeing that, Duong Tam looked at me and then turned to Bok Ningbang. Don't you know he smokes? Duong Tam suddenly stopped talking. He always smokes. Hearing this, Bok Ningbang was stunned, while Duong Tam approached and patted Bok Ningbang's shoulder and smiled. You two have been married for 5 years, right? And yet you still don't understand your husband as well as I do? Having finished speaking, Duong Tam left, leaving Bok Ningbang with a pale face. Having said that, I just have a headache. Don't misunderstand, I didn't mean to hide it from you. Over the years, the branch has had a lot of problems, as you know. Some of my uncles like to cause trouble. At first it was really difficult, sometimes I was so tired, I stayed home and smoked a little. After explaining, her face was even whiter than mine. Think for a moment and then add. I and Duong Tam checked this area and no one secretly took pictures. You don't need to worry about media issues. Do you think I'm worried that someone will take pictures of me smoking? Her eyes were red. I was surprised and said again, isn't that right? She bowed her head. Phuong Vien, it was you who disappointed me. I was silent for a while, not really knowing how to answer her. Disappointed? Of course there is. No matter how much I expected, I was also disappointed. But now I'm used to being disappointed. Now I have decided to divorce. What do these accusations mean anymore? I shook my head. Not at all, the branch is stable now. I also don't smoke regularly anymore. So you can talk about your pressure with Duong Tam, but can't talk about it with me? I was stunned. If I have to tell the truth, do you want to hear it? She immediately nodded. Right now my only pressure. I raised my head and said seriously, is whether our divorce proceedings can go smoothly or not. If it can be faster, the better. At that moment, Bok Ningbang's whole body trembled. I was also reluctant, clearly she wanted me to speak. A moment later, she walked over and hugged me tightly, her voice sweet. Just that is impossible. She continued, Phuong Vien, I can't get a divorce. Since that day, Bok Ningbang seems to have changed a lot. Although I still decided to leave the management position at Bok Tea's branch and take over Phuong Tea's media company, I often received gifts from her sent to the new company, along with many prepared dishes. Of course, there was also her appearance from time to time, as if I had pursued her before. Now everything seems to have reversed. The young employees in the company did not know that I was going through divorce proceedings. They kept complimenting me, saying that I married a wonderful wife. Only Duong Tam, since she joined my company, every time she sees a gift from Bok Ningbang, she smiles meaningfully, laughing and shaking her head. 1 month later, the company needs to prepare bidding documents. Duong Tam and I worked for many days just for a small detail that had to be plowed through. When I finished everything, I relaxed my shoulders, looked at Duong Tam, and saw that she was also completely relieved. Before, she was always very absent-minded at work. I've never seen her so serious. I laughed. Duong Tam looked at me in confusion. I smiled and explained to her. Suddenly then I felt like I had accidentally found a precious gem. Duong Tam laughed softly. I'm just humbled to help you. Okay? Okay. I couldn't do anything about her personality. Get up, it's late. Do you want to have dinner? Of course, but isn't someone coming to find you today? She stopped, looked towards the door and pointed at me. You look. I said it. When I turned around, standing at the door was Bok Ning Bang. Duong Tam immediately packed his bag with a lazy look, then waved at me. I'll go first, remember to give me dinner. I nodded. I know. After Duong Tam left, there were only me and Bok Ning Bang left in the office. She walked over silently, holding a thermos box of food in her hand. Have you eaten? She asked softly. I've eaten, I finished applying. A moment of silence prevailed. Bok Ning Bing, I feel like my words are not finished yet. She suddenly rushed into my arms and hugged me tightly. Bok Ning Bing, my whole body stiffened. What's wrong with you? She didn't say anything, just took a deep breath. The clock on the wall ticked. I'm jealous. After a long while, she softly said, Phuong Vien, I'm jealous. I never thought that one day Bok Ning Bang would hug me, saying she was jealous. Before, you asked me why I didn't agree to a divorce. Do you know why? Because I couldn't imagine you with anyone other than me. Just like before, I stood at the door watching you smile at her. The two of you were so happy. In my heart, jealousy welled up uncontrollably. I know very well that you and Duong Tam will have nothing, but I'm still jealous to the point of going crazy. After Phuong Vien spoke, she snuggled her head into my arms. I'm really going crazy. At this time, I slowly raised my hand and wrapped my arms around her. Bok Ning Bing, you also asked me why you want a divorce, right? She was stunned. I've been married to someone else. For the past 5 years, I've only had my wife in my eyes, but looking back, I realize I've lost myself. Bok Ning Bang, I want a divorce because I want to be myself again, Phuong Vien. I want to live for myself. At this point, I gently pushed her away. It's been 5 years, let's break up peacefully. No, she shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. I was silent for a moment, turned to stand next to her. But unexpectedly, she held my hand tightly. Tran, I'm stopping. Just this once, can you give me one more chance? Her hand is hot. At this time, I just replied softly, by the end of the year. If you can resign as General Director of Bok T, we will not divorce. She was stunned. What? That is your only condition? Suddenly she was speechless. Phuong Vien, these conditions are too difficult for me. I shook my head, wanting to withdraw my hand, but she still didn't let go. There is only this one condition, the rest are not possible. After a moment, she let go. I understand. She said she would resign. When I told the story, my brother looked at me in surprise, then laughed and shook his head. There's no way Bok Ning Bang will resign. I'll take my head down and make a ball for you to play with. I know the Bok family's situation is really complicated. Mr. Bok has 2 sons, the eldest uncle and the father of Bok Ning Bing. Initially, Mr. Bok intended to hand over the company to his eldest son, but unexpectedly, Bok Ning Bang's cousin was no good. 6 years ago, caused trouble and got caught. Therefore, Bok Ning Bang had to accept Bok T, but her relatives did not accept her because she was a woman. They often caused trouble in the company. Everyone aspires to be a general director. Over the past 5 years, I have also helped her solve many similar problems. the left and right hands are both flesh. Bok Ning Bang also does not live in the Bok family's ancestral house. The relationship with the old master is not close, and the old master is old and sometimes does not distinguish between right and wrong. Over the past 5 years, a girl like her had to put in so much effort to maintain that position. I know better than anyone else. Therefore, she definitely did not resign, and reality proved that to be the case. After I made that condition, Bok Ning Bang no longer came to me. 3 months passed quickly. I devoted all my attention to the company's operations. There are finally signs of improvement. Duong Tam and other employees are encouraged. I can see that during this time she has also changed a lot. On December 31st, the company held a small party. Everyone eats, drinks, and sings together. My brother also came. Little brother, it's true that as everyone said, you are truly a business genius. Having said that, he started to push forward. You should also take over more of the group's work. Dad is always forcing me. I'm about to be exhausted. At the party at that time, everyone was happy because I agreed to help him. I was also very excited, singing and dancing. The usual image is no longer there. At 11 p.m., the group left the engineering session. It just started snowing. A few people who like to joke around organized a snowball fight over there. On the mall's big screen, a TV program was broadcasting. My brother stood behind me, jumping non-stop. A snowflake fell into my hair. I raised my hand to brush away the snowflakes and looked up at the screen to see the image of Bok Ning Bang. She was so elegant and noble, giving interviews from the press. May I ask Director Bok, what is the reason why you suddenly resigned as Director Bok T? Is there anything special? Bok Ning Bang smiled gently. There is no special reason, I just want to rest for a while to be with my husband. I looked at the screen in surprise and then turned back to see my brother also stunned. When our eyes met, he raised his hand to gently touch his neck. At that moment, my phone rang. Where are you? In the city center under the clock tower. I'll be there in half an hour. Bok Ning Bang immediately said, Phuong Vien, you must keep your promise. Her voice rang out, carrying a gentle smile. Remember to wait for me. At 11:45 p.m., I stood under the clock tower and saw Bok Ning Bang. She walked over through the white snow, snowflakes falling lightly on her shoulders and her hair blurred, like in a dream. There's no need to do that. At this moment, we stood facing each other. I said, since you resigned, aren't you afraid you won't be able to come back? She shook her head and smiled slightly. If I don't come back then that's fine. Hearing that, I shook my head. 5 years of work and dedication poured into it. How can I let it go so easily? She's really stubborn. I pressed my hand between her eyebrows and smiled. So that means you're still worried about me, right? Having said that, she moved closer. It can be inferred that you still have a chance, right? I was silent. Bok Ning Bang suddenly gave me a stack of papers, which was a divorce contract. I was stunned, not understanding, looking at her. For the past 3 months, I've been worrying about the resignation procedures and thinking about everything. Phuong Vien, I already did, but I don't want to use that to force you to continue this marriage. Having finished speaking, she stopped. I have already signed the divorce contract. So why do you still resign? I don't understand even more. Of course, never do anything that loses capital. I have faith that even if I leave Bok T, I can build a new Bok T. Everything starts from the beginning. There will be more challenges, she smiled lightly. And I want to exchange my resignation for something else, is that okay? In exchange for what? As soon as I looked at her with an incomprehensible expression, she stood on tiptoe and gently brushed the snowflakes from my hair. In exchange for the opportunity, let's start over. When she looked up, I looked down. At this moment, our eyes met. In her eyes was a loving gentleness that I had never seen before. In exchange for the opportunity for Bok Ning Bang to pursue Phuong Vien from the beginning. 11:59, I signed the contract. From now on, I am no longer the perfect husband in everyone's eyes. I am only Phuong Vien, myself. The New Year bell rang. Bok Ning Bang and I both looked up at the snow-covered sky. It's a new year, I said softly. That's right, her eyes sparkled. She extended her hand towards me. Happy New Year, Phuong Vien. I'm Bok Ning Bang. I looked at her and smiled and replied, Happy New Year, Bok Ning Bang. I held out my hand. I'm Phuong Vien.